30-year-old me was blaming 18-year-old me for the decisions he had made. I thought I wasted 15 years of my life doing all this stuff, and I forgave my younger self. Then I realized you don't need to forgive him. He didn't make a mistake. He was right. We can't blame the younger version of yourself for the decisions they made. They made them, and that's it. But now, wherever you are in your path, if you're at a crossroads, you have to make a decision. You can't keep on blaming the 18-year-old person for the decisions they made. Give yourself grace, forgive yourself, and realize maybe you did make a mistake. And the second thing I would say is to start sooner. At some point in my career, I thought I needed more experience, more certifications, more everything. And I realized that no, you learn by doing. Whatever business is you're in, start with one, then two, then three, and learn. Instead of waiting for the perfect day's never going to come. There are no perfect days. Start now.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of The Career Changers. Today, we are happy to welcome Ramon Santillan, founder of persuasiveinterview.com, who teaches his clients how to turn interviews into job offers. Today, we will discuss his career journey and the art of saying no, the often overlooked power of turning down a job offer, and how this can be a strategic career move. Ramon, we are so thrilled to have you here. Welcome to the Career Changers.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your listeners for having me too.
So let's start with your career and with your background. Where did you grow up and what was your dream job when you were a child?
I grew up in Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville is on the border by the sea, at the very tip of Texas. Brownsville's current claim to fame is that that's where SpaceX launches their rockets. If you go to Brownsville, there's SpaceX stuff all over the place because that's where the rockets are. My dream career when I was a child, my mom was a nurse, and I thought it would be cool to be a doctor so I could work with my mom at the hospital. I really thought that was going to be my path when I was younger. But then at some point I decided that maybe having my own business was the best way to go. So I started thinking about that. And then many years later, through different steps and paths, I ended up where I am now as an interview coach.
What is your educational background?
So when I went to college, I went to the University of Texas at Austin. What I wanted to do is be an accountant. When I was in high school, I took an accounting class. I did really well. I had a perfect score. And they allowed me to take the advanced course, which is only open for juniors and seniors, basically the third and fourth year students. I was a second year student. They allowed me to take that course because I had a perfect score and I loved accounting. So I said, okay, as a career, I have to go to college. I found the #1 accounting program in the US, which was at that time the University of Texas at Austin. I went there with the full intention of wanting to be an accountant. For accountants, the highest thing you can become is a CFO or a partner in an accounting firm. I really thought my goal was going to be that way. So everything I did was focused on being an accountant.
And so is that the journey you had? How did you start your professional life? What was your first job?
Oh, my first job started when I was like 13. I always had really good grades in school, and some of my friends didn't. So after classes, they would do a tutorial program for students, and I didn't have anything else to do. So I would stay behind, and I was just causing trouble. Like I was distracting. I would walk by the classroom, make funny faces, knock on the windows, and distract the students. I was just trying to be funny. I was a kid. But looking back, I always feel grateful for the teachers that were there because they realized that he's not here because he doesn't need to be here. He has good grades, but he is distracting the other students. So how can we harness that power to where he's not distracting, he's actually doing something good because he might get into deeper trouble later on, especially in the area of Brownsville. It's on the border. All that comes with living in a border city. There's drugs and that kind of stuff, and crime, obviously. The teachers made a program for a couple of students, but I think almost specifically for me, and they gave me a job. My job was to go to the tutorial sessions and bring snacks to the students. So they gave me a task, a mission. And once they gave me that, I was like, okay, I have to do this. The best part is they were paying me. I think they were paying me like $3 an hour or something like that, which is nothing. But to a 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid, that's a lot of money. More importantly, I had a job to do. My job was to bring them snacks. The teachers also got smart because they realized once we give them a task, maybe he can help us with other things. So what I started doing is tutoring those students the task. So I was helping the teachers teach the students the math or whatever it was we're working on. And that really made a change in my world because I could have very easily gotten in trouble with bigger things, the more dangerous things. But just the teachers paying attention and instead of getting angry at me, they said, no, we have to approach this a different way. We have to give him a mission, a goal. And
Mm.
once he gave me that, I was hooked. That's what I was doing. So that was my official first job. I got a paycheck every week or every 2 weeks. I had to pay taxes on it.
Oh, wow.
No, it was a job, a real job. And that's my first job. And from there, I started doing tutoring on my own in high school. And in college, I started doing tutoring too. But yeah, that was my
Mm.
first job.
What about your career before reaching your turning point when you decided to become a coach? What did you do before than that?
Like I mentioned, I was going to school for an accounting degree. I did my accounting internship with one of the big four accounting firms at KPMG. After that, I graduated and I worked in industry. Then I worked at PwC. And I loved that job at PwC, but I realized that I didn't want to be a partner. I didn't want to climb the ranks to be an accountant. I saw some people that I didn't, I admired the work that they did, but I didn't admire the personal life. Again, for my perspective, that wasn't the life I wanted to live. And I realized the sacrifices they made were not the sacrifices I wanted to commit to. Not that they're right or wrong, but just not what I wanted to do. And the other option was to become a CFO. And I saw that and I was like, that's not what I want to do. I'm not interested in that path. Nothing wrong with it, but just not where I see myself in 15, 20 years. And that was a really difficult time for me because, again, at that point I was 30. So basically, the last 15 years, I've focused myself on getting the good grades so I can go to the number one accounting program, working really hard during the accounting program, doing the internships, getting the jobs, working at the big firms, making connections. And then I realized I was wrong. Like I made a mistake. I don't want to be an accountant, but why did I spend half my life at that point trying to be an accountant? And I was very confused. I was very angry at myself. I thought I made a mistake until I realized that I didn't make a mistake. 18-year-old me, when I decided to go to college, wanted to be an accountant. And he did everything he needed to do to become an accountant. And he was right. He didn't make a single mistake. 30-year-old Ramon, he didn't want to be an accountant anymore. He didn't want to be a CFO or a partner. And he was also right. He was not wrong either. And I realized I didn't make a mistake. I didn't waste half my life being an accountant. No, that was a skill, that was education, that was time well spent towards that goal. But then at some point I realized I don't want to be that anymore. I can change my goal. And I can't be angry at the 18-year-old Ramon for the decisions he made. Those decisions were right. But now at 30, Ramon, he wants to make a different decision, and that is fine too. So that's when I started really focusing on the coaching. But before then, I was doing coaching sessions. I didn't realize I were coaching. I was just helping people out. But at 30 is when I realized, oh yeah, this is, I think, what I want to do.
It's a beautiful perspective, the idea of saying I wasn't wrong, even when I was younger or now, but when I was 30, I wanted different things. And sometimes it's so easy to look back and feel a bit guilty and say, oh, I did the wrong choice, I made a mistake. But your perspective is something really refreshing. And I think everyone that is listening can appreciate that. So let's talk about the power of no. So many job seekers feel pressure to accept offers out of fear or necessity. Anyone that would receive a job offers, I believe, would find very difficult to say, I'm going to refuse this unless, something is not right. But why is saying no sometimes the best strategic decision for long-term success?
I think even before you get to the no, you really have to sit down and think about your options. When I coach my clients, I tell them, yes, you want a job. Some people say, I need a job because I need to pay my rent or my mortgage or whatever, the expenses I have. I need to have a job. And I say, I understand that. But when you go into an interview, you should go into with the perspective of, I'm trying to find information out. I want to make sure what this job's about. You want to make sure you go into the job on your first day with eyes wide open. You know exactly what's expected of you and what you should expect from them too. So a lot of times people accept a job offer hoping that it's going to be a good job, and then it's not, even though all the red flags were there. They just ignore them. So people think about the job. What is your boss going to be like? The team, the commute, the pay, the title, and then make a decision. You can say yes to a bad job because you need to take a job. That is fine, but at least go with it with eyes wide open. Even if it's all bad things, but you need to take a job because you need to pay your mortgage, okay, fine, take the job. But then know what your plan is after that. Are you going to stay there until you find the next job? Are you going to start working to look for a new job while you're working? Think about that before you even say yes or no to opportunity. Going back to your question about saying no to the interview, sometimes we're in a lucky position where you have multiple options. Sometimes you don't even have options, and that's okay. But sit down and think, is this going to interfere with the rest of my goals? Once you decide to do that, then you can say yes or no. And then saying the no, again, opens your opportunities for them to come.
I would like to ask you, have you ever turned down a job offer?
Yeah, I've turned them on plenty of times. I've had opportunities where I didn't feel like I was the right person for the job. Not that my skills weren't there, it's just not something that I wanted to do. Sometimes the pay's not there. Sometimes people don't want to pay what you think you should be paid. Sometimes the commute. Sometimes there's a better fit for you, and that is fine too. You decide what's best for you. To me, a job interview is a lot like dating, like finding a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
In order to find the right one for you, you have to be honest with yourself and with that person. So someone might come and they might be whatever your version of pretty is. Oh, that's pretty. She's pretty. He's good looking. That's fine. But what about the rest of the person? What they do, how they interact with you? Do you like sometimes they look like a perfect 10 on paper, but when you interact with them, there's just not a spark. Same thing with jobs. You have to sit down and think, is this what I want to do or not? So yeah, I've turned down jobs for many reasons, and that is okay. That is not a problem. It opens up opportunities. What else is out there?
And so turning down a job can feel intimidating or even ungrateful. Maybe people can have a feeling of guilt. How can anyone manage the emotional aspect of declining an offer, in your opinion?
Again, I think it's very much like breaking up with someone
Uh,
when you're dating someone. It's never going to sound good. The more you say, the worse you make it. So when you're declining a job offer, keep it simple. You can send an email, you could make a phone call and just say something simple. Thank you for the opportunity. At this time, I'm deciding to turn down the offer. I had a great time interviewing with you guys. I wish you the best of luck. You don't have to give explanations. You don't have to say the name of the new company, just that. Some companies will call you back and try to convince you to stay with them. I personally don't like that. If a company calls you and offers you more money or a better title, it always makes me wonder, why didn't they do that from the beginning? Same thing with a relationship. If you break up with someone, if you go on a date or two, or maybe you were in a relationship with someone and you decide this isn't the right fit for me anymore. And they say, I promise I'm going to change. I'm going to do better. Stop and think, why did they do that before? Why do you have to threaten them to leave before they do that? That's not the kind of person you want to be with. That's not the company you want to be with either. When you break up with someone, you don't say, I'm leaving you because this new girl, she's prettier, she's smarter, whatever. You don't say that. It's going to make them feel worse. It's not helpful either. You don't say their name. You just say, you know what? This isn't working out. Thank you. You shouldn't feel bad about doing that. Why? Because a company will do the same thing to you. I'm not saying companies are evil. I'm not saying corporations are bad. What I'm saying is this is a business. Your career is a business. It's your business. You're the CEO of your company, which is you. Their company, the job, they're also a business. Sometimes they might have to let you go for whatever reason. They do layoffs, they fire people. And it's not because they don't like you. It's just not, doesn't fit them anymore. So same thing, they don't feel guilty. The company, maybe it's someone at the company feels guilty, a person, but the company itself, the entity, does not feel guilty. It doesn't have feelings. Again, it's a business. They don't do it personally. It's not personal, it's business, right? Same thing with you when you decide to turn down a job offer, when you decide to leave a job, you shouldn't feel guilty. This is a business we're running here, and feelings aren't allowed.
yeah, that's a good reminder. So, what key factors should candidates consider before deciding whether to accept or decline an offer?
Yeah, and again, this is all you front load the work, what we call. So basically, you do the work beforehand. Before you start your job search, you should sit down and think about what you're looking for. What kind of title, what kind of pay, what kind of industry or company, even your commute. Is it work from home, hybrid, or in person? No right or wrong answer. Whatever is best for you is the right answer. Not the best for your friend or your neighbor or your spouse. It's the best for you as a whole. Once you determine those things, then you can start looking for a job. Again, we can start talking about dating if you wanted to. This is the same thing. Before you start looking for a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner, think about what do I want in that person? Because if you look for a job, there's many jobs. Some of the jobs you're qualified for, some you're not. Some of the jobs you don't want to do. Some jobs you do want to do. Same thing with a partner. When someone says, I'm looking for a girlfriend, well, there's all kinds of girls outside. Which one? Because I want a girl that looks like this or does this kind of job or who also wants this in her life. Once you narrow it down, it's easier to find. So I recommend people start doing that before you start looking at job search. Think about what you want. Once you get a job offer, then compare that, your list of the things you want to the things that they can offer you. So is the compensation what you wanted? Is the title what you wanted? Are the people you work with the kind of people you want to work with? All those things matter. Maybe it's not 100% every single thing that you want, but some things might be better, some things might be worse. And that's for you to decide, am I willing to accept that difference between what I wanted and what they're offering me? So again, everything starts before you even need it. Have a plan. What I recommend to people, don't wait to make a decision when you have to make a decision. Make a decision before you have to make a decision.
So, what's the best way to professionally decline an offer while preserving relationships and leaving the door open for future opportunities?
I'm glad you asked because this is a small world, right? Even now, like I'm here in Dallas and you're in London, it's a small world and you're going to see the same people, especially if you're in the same industry over and over again across your life. I've been in situations where someone was above me at a particular job, and within 6 months at a different organization, I was above them. Again, 6 months. And people remember when you treat them bad. People remember when you treat them well. So just be nice to people, first of all. Yeah. And so when you turn down an offer, again, you don't have to give explanations. You don't have to give names. You just say, thank you very much for the opportunity. I had a great time meeting with everyone. And I'll make sure to refer anyone I know who might be qualified for the role. Leave it at that. No need to, again, give me a call. We need to talk. No, you don't need to do that. Same thing with a breakup. You don't say, let's get together and talk about the breakup. No, it's not gonna lead to anything. Again, this isn't a discussion. A decision has been made. I'm not taking this job.
Do you have an example where someone turned down an offer and ended up in a much stronger career position because of it?
Oh yeah, I've had with my clients, a bunch of them. I have several myself personally. One thing I recommend to my clients is once you have a job offer, you only have a job offer. You don't have a job. You have a job when you start working. So what I recommend my clients do is interview until you start working. I've done it many times myself. I've interviewed at a different company the day before I started a job. I've actually done phone screens on my second day at a new job because they were already scheduled and I went through with them. But I stayed with the company because the company that I accepted the job offer was a better one. One time I had a situation where I was offered a job. The company was okay. It wasn't the best fit for me at that time, but I needed a job. So I took the job, accepted the offer. My full intention was to go work there. I sat down and thought, this isn't the best job, but I need a job right now. So I'm going to accept it. It's a close commute. They pay me okay. It's not really where I want to be. The bosses aren't the best ones, but again, once I have a job, I have an income, I can start using this time to look for another job. It's going to be hard, but I can use that time to look for another job. So I was supposed to start on a Monday, and they usually give you 2 weeks before you start. During those 2 weeks, I interviewed at another place that was a better title, better pay, closer to commute actually too, and a step up in my career. That second company called me, made me an offer on the Friday before I was supposed to start at company A. So I accepted the offer at company B. And as soon as I accepted the offer, I called the person who I'd been in contact with at company A. And I said exactly what I told you before. Hi, just calling to let you know that I won't be there on Monday. I accepted an offer at a different company. It was a great time meeting with you guys. And I'm sure I'll refer anyone I can think is qualified for the role. Thank you. The person on the phone was the director of the company, the department I was going to be working at. And what happened? Like, well, tell me, what company is it? Is it the money? It's funny that you mentioned the money because when I accepted their job offer, I tried negotiating and they said, no, we're not negotiating. So anyways, 2 weeks later, when I have another offer, I was just saying, hey, I'm not doing this. I'm going somewhere else. Thank you. Is it the money? And I said, no, it's not. It's a better fit for me. I hang up the phone. Funny thing that happened. within 15 minutes, I got a call from their HR departments. And again, which is funny because in the 2 weeks prior, even with the interview process, they were so slow to respond.
Mm.
But now all of a sudden, when their candidate was going away, they were available. Within 15 minutes, I get a phone call from HR. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Hey, we just heard the news, like you're not coming here on Monday. Hey, how about we give you a $15,000 raise? We think you deserve it and you should be here. I said, thank you, but I'm still going. Like I mentioned before, a decision's been made. I appreciate the effort, but I'm not going to be there Monday.
Mm.
And that was that. I was like, are you sure? And which is funny because even with the 15,000 raise, it wasn't as good as actually, I think it matched the company's offer. But there's still company B was better for many reasons. But it also proved to me is wait, why why do these people, company A, only react to what I asked for when I make threats?
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, with company B, I didn't have to make a threat to get a raise. I negotiated. They were open to negotiation. They gave me what I thought was fair.
Mm.
And that was fine. That was a negotiation. It was a conversation. With company A, I had to make threats to get what I thought was right. It wasn't even like more, it was just right. And I said, yeah, I'm definitely made the right decision by not accepting company A's offer because I don't want to go through my career making threats to people. I want to be in a place where people can talk. And I can say, hey, I feel I should be doing this or this position or this role or this title or this salary or this project. And people say, hey, that's a good point. Let's talk about that. If I want to be at a place like that and not a place where if you don't do what I say, I'm going to leave or I'm going to do this. So, anyways, long term, it was a great opportunity, a better opportunity. I got paid more. I learned a lot. It was just all around better. And again, turning down an offer didn't affect me negatively because I did it the right way.
So time is going really fast and we are reaching the end of this episode, but we have a few more questions. First of all, if you had one key message for job seekers struggling with the decision to say no, what would it be?
Make a decision before you even start looking for a job. What do you want? Once you know what you want, you know what you're looking for. If you need to take a job for whatever reason and you feel this isn't the best job for you, that's fine. Make sure you make a plan before you start working about what you're going to do to start looking for a better job. So how are you going to use this job to leverage to get a new job? So are you going to spend some time in the evenings looking for a job? Once your money problems are taken care of, then you're going to start looking for a job. I don't know, whatever the decision is for you, the best one, do that. But make a plan before you start doing that. I would hate for you to take a job that is just terrible and not good for you. At least if you go into a bad job, have a plan on how to get out of the bad job.
And now, really, the last question. If you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say to your younger self?
I would say a couple of things. The first one is you didn't make a mistake. When we started the conversation earlier, I really struggled with that. 30-year-old me was blaming 18-year-old me for the decisions he had made. I thought I really wasted 15 years of my life doing all this stuff. And I forgave my younger self. I realized not only did I forgive him, then I realized you don't need to forgive him. He didn't make a mistake. He was right. But now 30-year-old Ramon needs to make a decision for the future. And again, maybe in 15 years, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 20 years, or maybe never, that decision has to be changed. But we can't blame the younger version of yourself for the decisions they made. They made them and that's it. But now you have to make a decision. Wherever you are in your path, if you're at a crossroads, you have to make a decision. You can't keep on blaming the 18-year-old person for the decisions they made. Now you start blaming yourself if you make or don't make a decision. So give yourself grace, forgive yourself, and realize maybe you didn't make a mistake. And the second thing I would say is to start sooner. At some point in my career, especially with my coaching career, I thought I needed more experience, more certifications, more anything or everything. And I realized that no, you learn by doing. Start working one, whatever the business is you're in, start with one, then two, then three, and learn. Instead of waiting for the perfect day's never going to come. Even now that I have a thriving coaching business, I never have perfect days. A perfect day is when I finish my day and I help people. That is my perfect day. But how I help them is very different. That's how I saw myself many years ago when I first started. So there are no perfect days. Start now.
Thank you, Ramon, for sharing your incredible journey and these precious insights with us and our listeners today. And a last message for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and tune in next week for a new inspirational episode of the Career Changers. Thank you, Ramon.
Thank you, Alyssa.